This is Frank Essom, Chairman and CEO of FI Investment Group and your host of Washington Current Review, where we interview leading voices from politics and business and explore the topics of current interest that impact you, the viewer. Today, our guest is Doug Gansler, the Attorney General of Maryland. He will be discussing current issues of priority for the Attorney General's office, especially related to the cleanup of Chesapeake Bay. Thank you for coming to our show, Mr. Attorney General.
Thank you for having me.
And we would like to thank you for your service to our nation. You're doing a great service to the state of Maryland. Thank you very much. When you ran for the Attorney General, why did you make cleaning up the environment a priority, which I think is a very important issue, is the hot issue, is a key thing, is the right thing to do for the state of Maryland? Tell me a little bit about it.
We have sort of three priorities, and the top one would be the environment, and then public safety and consumer protection. But the environment is an area where it really had not gotten much attention in Maryland, and particularly the Chesapeake Bay, which is really the jewel of our state. If you go to India, people in India know, the only thing they might know about Maryland is that the Chesapeake Bay is there.
I love it.
And they might have heard of it, and it's dying. And you know, it really started about 25 years ago. We recognized that it was going downhill, and we needed to do something about it. And what we've been doing is throwing money at the problem. But instead, I thought, well, we could take a different view of it, use the law, enforce the laws that are already on the books, and ultimately clean up the bay so that people could use it for tourism, and of course the business piece of it, which is all that used to be in the bay, the crabs, the oysters, the fish that came out of the bay, which gave a lot of jobs but also gave a lot of income to the state.
What role does the Attorney General have in cleaning of the environment?
Well, we do a number of things with the environment. We do, for example, since I've been in office, we had the biggest settlement of any in the history of the United States of any environmental case involving coal-burning power plants in Ohio that were spewing hundreds of thousands of pounds of pollution into the air and coming over Maryland and other states. We had a $4.6 billion settlement where they had to clean that up. So we're worried about the air. We're worried about the water with the Chesapeake Bay. We had a case against Constellation Power for $1 million penalty alone where they were polluting the groundwater. And then ExxonMobil for another case that we had where they had an oil spill. It was the biggest settlement in the history of Maryland, $4 million to clean up that oil spill. So we're trying to worry about the air, the water, because it's, you know, we're just renting our time here, and our kids and our grandkids, they need to have a clean environment as well, and we need to really not only sort of sustain where we are, but change it and go back and start cleaning up the environment and making it safe again.
So we're going to leave behind for our children and grandchildren better than what we inherited this planet.
That's the goal, and particularly with the water. You know, with the waterways, you know, that no one owns the rivers, nobody owns the Chesapeake Bay. The people do, and their kids and grandkids. So there's a lot we can do. We're taking sort of a multi-layered approach. One of the things we're doing, for example, is chicken litter. Chicken manure is the biggest pollutant in the bay. We have 1.2 billion pounds of chicken manure made in Maryland each year. We're going to bring a power plant to Maryland to convert half of that, 500 million pounds of chicken manure, take it and burn it into 45 megawatts of energy. So you don't have coal-burning power. You take 500 million pounds of this nitrogen and phosphorus out of the water in the first place and use it for a positive purpose.
That's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, we think so. It's one of the many things we're looking at.
For decades, elected officials have made false promises to improve the health of the bay with no results. You know that. What difference do you, Mr. Attorney General, you can make? Is it really possible to improve the health of the bay?
Yeah, well, I'm as cynical as the next person about these politicians that come up, I'm going to clean the bay, because they know people care about the bay, and you know, people live around it, and there's been generations of Marylanders that have grown up around the bay, and Virginians as well. But the difference is we have the power of the law to help. So we have the Clean Air Act, we have the Clean Water Act. So we actually can prosecute polluters. I'd been a prosecutor of criminals for 14 years in the federal system and the state system before becoming Attorney General. So I really just converted my prosecution of criminals into the prosecution of polluters. And that, you know, the politicians can give money to the bay and to clean up, which is important as well. But I think what really we need to do now is enforce the laws. Now, don't ask people to voluntarily not pollute. That's not working. We need to enforce the laws and prosecute polluters that take away the bay and the air from us.
You just released your first Chesapeake Bay environmental audit, as I understand. What did you find, and what were some of the common complaints that you heard?
What we do is every 2 or 3 months we go to a different river shed around the state, which feeds into the Chesapeake Bay.
Correct.
So last year, on Earth Day, we have the audit report, and so we did 4 different rivers, and they were around the state: the Monocacy, the Pocomoke, the Chester River, and the Great Seneca Creek in Montgomery County. And there were some things that were common to them and some things that were unique to them. The common ones included wastewater treatment plants, the idea that we're under capacity for our wastewater treatment, so that every time it rains and we have a storm event, the raw sewage goes into the waterways, and that's just crazy in the 21st century. So that's one of the common complaints. Another common complaint is growth, the lack of control of growth, particularly in the critical area right next to the water that we need to solve there. And then, of course, some of the other issues that were more unique to the different rivers were agriculture. Some have it, some don't. Some are in more populated areas where there's sewage systems, but some have wells, and those pollute as well.
So all these things are making a lot of difference at Chesapeake Bay. As I understand it, things are getting a lot better.
Well, that's a difficult thing, and actually you started with the question about running on the environment and as a political issue, and it's a really bad political issue actually if you think about it, because it's not like a murder rate where you can count the murders last year, then count the murders this year and say it's gone down. It took them 250, 300 years to take the pristine, beautiful Chesapeake Bay that we had, where when John Smith came here, he put a frying pan on, the fish were literally jumping into it, to get to where we are now, where it's almost dead. And so it's going to take decades to see the results of what we're doing today. But I think you get into politics to do the right thing for the right reasons, and so it's going to take time, but we're really reversing the trend. People say, well, it's getting better. Well, it got better than last year, but I'm more optimistic than that and more ambitious than that, and want to see it where it was 50 years ago. And that's the goal, get back to where it was 50 years ago. Maybe not 200 years ago, but 50 years ago.
Well, thank you very much for what you're doing. This is a great thing to do.
Thank
you very much for coming to our show.
I appreciate it.
I really appreciated that. That is our show. Until next time, this is Frank Islam of FI Investment Group wishing you a great week.